Let's bring in our Canucks reporter, Jeff Paterson, the host of RinkWide Vancouver, live from Rogers Arena, where, well, Jeff, we wanted to see what gives with Elias Pettersson, lest we forget he has missed the last couple of games with injury. What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you that you're probably going to hear the goal horn behind me, and don't be surprised if the music gets cranked up here. You may have seen on the broadcast last night, there's a group of young next-gen participants from Saskatchewan that are here getting a 2-day experience with the Vancouver Canucks, and they're going to actually take to the ice to play a game. And Al Murdoch is at the microphone ready to do player announcements and introductions. So I just mentioned that by way of the fact that there could be some background noise, maybe competing for airspace here in the building. As far as Elias Pettersson, it sounded like fairly good news. Adam Foote suggesting that another day of progress here, that he hopes that EP40 is going to be on the ice at practice tomorrow. So they've got 2 days here between games. Today was an optional skate. Most of the veterans took the day off, and Elias Pettersson among them. But according to the coach, he has his fingers crossed, and he couched it with things can change, and we've certainly seen that already this season. But it sounds like Elias Pettersson is progressing, and that this shouldn't be a lengthy absence beyond the 2 games that he's missed so far, if he's able to go on Thursday night against Buffalo.
That's a maybe. What is certain now, according to Dr. Demko, is that he's ready to go on Thursday.
Yeah, and he and Kevin Lankinen, the 2 goaltenders. Nikita Tolopilo is still around, according to the coach, but of course he will be sent back to Abbotsford when they activate Thatcher Demko, who's been on IR now for the better part of a month. And it is interesting the way it works. It was November 11th that he got injured against Winnipeg. It'll be December 11th as he makes his return here against the Sabres. So just talked to Demko. First time we've had a chance to talk to him in a while. He said with a very wry smile that he's got a pretty good handle on this recovery thing now, alluding to the fact that this is just way too many injuries for one guy throughout his career. And he turned 30 yesterday, and that's noteworthy as well, that he's now into his 30s and coming off this injury. We've always said with Thatcher, it's not a question of can he get healthy, it's can he stay healthy. And so, no surprise that he's put in the work here to be available to the Vancouver Canucks again. But he did talk, and I asked him if it was particularly frustrating that this injury happened so early in the season after what were, by all accounts, and even his own at training camp, a terrific summer, a full summer of training to get ready. And then, of course, when he hit the ground running, and how many times did I come on with you guys through those informal skates at UBC and training camp in the preseason and said, this is probably the best news story of them all, is that Thatcher Demko is starting to show signs of his old self. And then 5 weeks into the season, he's on the shelf yet again. So he said absolutely that, that's the part that's really frustrating. But as he pointed out, that, you just can't control when injuries happen. And he's had more than his share here. And so said it basically took a week to kind of rest up and, use time. And then from that first week, he was able to begin the rehab that has brought him back to this point. He's been on the ice with the group for a while now. And again, they'll have a full team practice. So that'll be the last kind of dress rehearsal. And it looks like we're going to see Thatcher Demko between the pipes on Thursday night against the Sabres.
He's played a third of the schedule, Jeff. He's played 10 games. It's not an insignificant sample size for Thatcher Demko. He's got the most wins of the goaltending group. They have a winning record with Thatcher Demko. Is this their last look at whether or not they can actually make something of this season now that Demko is back? Do you think management is looking at that going, let's just see, because we have one more games than we've lost with Thatcher Demko?
Yeah, I tweeted that earlier. I honestly was surprised. I was just looking at team stats, and Kevin Lankinen's been stuck on his 4 wins for a while, and wow, Thatcher Demko, despite missing a month, is still the leader in the clubhouse with 5 victories on the season. It's a small total, but you're right. He's got more wins than losses in the 9 decisions. He has started 10 games, but pulled himself out of that game against the Jets. I put that very question to him, Blake, about this team's dug itself a hole through all of the adversity. Is there enough runway? And he kind of had a big pause and just said, I'm looking at Thursday and, one game at a time kind of thing. But then he did say, we have seen around the league that teams have gone on these terrific runs. The problem with this team, though, is they can't start the run. They had a chance. It was there. They were halfway to a 2-game win streak with the victory over Minnesota. and one step back, or maybe it's one step forward and a couple steps back, whatever the case. You can't start the streak without the first one, so they're back at square one in that regard, and having not won consecutive games since Thatcher Demko was healthy and available back in the middle of October. Until I see it, it's just so hard to comprehend what would have to take place, how many dominoes would have to fall in their direction for this team to all of a sudden get on one of those types of runs.
Halfway to a win streak after one. Son of a mathematician, Jeff Paterson, joining us here on Sekeres and Price. Jeff, I know you weren't there at the final horn last night as the game petered out. You were back here in studio, Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, prepping for RinkWide. But as you've been around Rogers Arena over this homestand, do you sense more anger or apathy from the patrons?
Yeah, I was here on Saturday for the game against Minnesota. The final Saturday home game before the holiday break. And again, it's a little different this year. Like Thursday's it. Thursday is their Christmas celebration game on the 11th of December because they've got this 5-game road trip that takes them into the Christmas break. So that was it. Minnesota coming in. It was back-to-back, and that's a big ask. And they've done that a bunch this year with the compressed schedule where they've had these back-to-back home games on the weekends. But that was really my takeaway, that a Saturday night, it's supposed to be festive. It's supposed to be fun. And it was really anything but. Even with the Canucks beating Minnesota that night, I couldn't get over the number of empty seats in the end zone, lower bowl behind the Canucks net that they defend twice. And I waited till like 15 minutes into the first period to form my conclusion. I wanted a late arriving crowd, sometimes people in the concourse, whatever it fills in. And so I wasn't going to rush to judgment at the national anthem. But with 5 minutes to go in the first period, like there were empty rows, there were chunks and blocks of empty seats here. And I assume, guys, that many of them are bought and paid for, and people are voting with their presence in the building and willing to eat the ticket price. Anecdotally, I've got a good friend of mine whose family has had season tickets going way back to the Coliseum days, center ice, 10 rows up, like among the best seats in the house. And on Friday, the Utah game, middle of the day, get a group text. Anybody want tickets tonight? Like, just giving them away. And it took hours for one guy to respond and was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. But that's kind of like, I got nothing else. My schedule's clear. Sure. Why not? Free tickets. I'll go. That's kind of where they are right now. And I heard you talking about student rush. I mean, that does say something. And all these markers. Again, I think to myself, guys, like Board of Governors meetings taking place in Colorado Springs. We know that all of these owners are terrifically rich, and they're all, successful business people on varying degrees. But I think some ego comes with that. Like, imagine having to walk in and face your peers when you're 31st or 32nd. Everybody in the league is wondering what's going on. And now back on the home front, you're playing to far less than capacity crowds here. These are not terrific times, obviously, for the Vancouver Canucks. So just the one game to go. It happens to be Buffalo. That's not a terrific draw, obviously, on a Thursday night. And with the Canucks coming off a shutout loss, can't imagine that there is a ton of walk-up business at the ticket window on game days right now.
Well, you mentioned Buffalo, Jeff, and of course they are the standard for how to screw it up and how to screw up a rebuild, and for not making the playoffs, and for being the worst of National Hockey League franchises. Do you think the quality or lack thereof of the opponent on Thursday night could bring out something a little bit more visceral from the Rogers Arena crowd? I saw our friend Jason Bruff joking that whoever wins the game should get the, well, at least they're not those guys cup.
I would say that the opponent to me doesn't really matter, but I understand where you're coming from. I just think this last game before the break, the last time that the home fans are going to have a chance to voice their frustration, it really doesn't matter who's on the other side. And I think Buffalo could be a kind of difficult opponent for the Vancouver. I mean, everybody's a difficult opponent when you're 31st in the league. I think the Sabres now are 30th. And we'll see what happens. Buffalo got waxed in Calgary and have to turn around and go into Edmonton tonight. So that'll be 3-4 for them by the time they arrive here. But I think with the Sabres, you've got guys like Tage Thompson, you've got Alex Tuch, you've got guys that can generate offensively, that can cause challenges for defenses and goaltenders. And it kind of looks from the outside, and trust me, I don't watch a ton of Buffalo Sabres hockey on a nightly basis, but if they throw caution to the wind and they don't care about giving up a couple, they're trying to outscore their issues, it could be one of those games that I don't think necessarily lends itself to a successful night at the office for the Vancouver Canucks. So right now, as it stands here today, and I guess it'll change going into Edmonton, but the Canucks and Sabres are the worst two teams in the NHL defensively. So I think there will be some goals scored here on Thursday night. It's just a question of can the Canucks score more than the Buffalo Sabres.
On Quinn Hughes, Jeff, we just finished talking about a couple of his answers from last night. Number one, he says he's playing really he's well and he's, good with it, because if he wasn't playing well, then it would be more difficult. I'm doing everything I can and playing as well as I can. If it wasn't for that, for me and my standards, that would be a problem. He's not actually playing all that great of late. So I'm looking for your interpretation there. Did you read anything into him taking a question about his focus and turning it into Red Wings have done well at the draft table?
On the second question first, not so much. And I get it. I mean, every word that he says right now is being parsed a billion different ways, and it's sort of a no-win situation for him. But he's the captain of a Canadian team that is struggling. And so, and certainly with the backstory of what's going on with his future, everything he says, I think, is open to some degree of interpretation. But I think the issue for me last night was far more on the ice rather than in the locker room and what he said afterwards. And we're also at a point in time where his body language is being interpreted so many different ways. He just looks defeated right now. And you can understand why. His team has 11 wins in 30 games. And I know that he missed 5, but he's the focal point. He is the offensive driver, and he's going through a slump unlike any other that he's ever experienced in his National Hockey League career. So these are uncharted territory, or this is uncharted territory for him. There are still moments in every game where you're like, damn, it's there. He's still doing a lot of Quinn Hughes things, but obviously it's not adding up to any sort of offense. The power play, and he's a huge part of that, is in an 0 for 20 rut. What would a power play goal do to cure a bunch of the slumps for not just Quinn Hughes, but beyond the 6 points or 6 games without a point? It's 2 points in 9, which followed that incredible 10 assists in 3 games. How does it go from 10 assists in 3 games to absolutely nothing? So, he looks frustrated. He looks defeated. I don't think he's got a lot of answers. And there was the one line in one of his answers too last night where, he suggested that they're trying as hard as they can. And I'm not here to quibble with the effort most nights, but again, I think that's a pretty stark admission that if they are trying the best they can, and the best that they've got is getting shut out at home by a middle-of-the-pack Detroit Red Wings team, and the fact that outside of the game against Minnesota the other night, it's 1 goal or none. That's a pretty tough way to make headway in the National Hockey League.
There's nothing wrong with the effort. In fact, I commend the players for being able to bring this effort night in, night out, despite all the losing and everything that's swirling around.
But it swirls back to the lack of a win streak, honestly, guys. If this team remembered what it was like to be joyful for 3 games in a row. Again, we are talking about a 3-game winning streak, not what we've seen by the other teams in the league this year who have gone on 10, 16-game point streaks and winning streaks. 3 games. If they just had a week where they were eager to get to the rink, I do think we'd see the potential for a little bit of a turnaround. I'm not talking a cup contender. I just mean something. But, you got to get there somehow. And to your earlier point, Jeff, I just don't know how they possibly get there given what they've got down the middle right now.
Well, and I think if you go back, the start of that California trip, they beat Anaheim, and it was a fun game, trading chances. They came out on the right end of that one that night. They outplayed San Jose, but lost. They gave up 2 power play goals, and special teams matter. And so they lost that one, and then they turned around. They went into Los Angeles, won all into overtime. They lost that one. Good teams find ways to win, and bad teams find ways to lose. And that's kind of their lot in life here. That, did they outplay the Red Wings? Yeah, but you got to put a puck in the net ultimately. And Jake DeBrusk is beating himself up these days, and I get it. I mean, he's as honest as the day is long, and he knows that he's paid to score goals for this hockey club. And guys, like, it is, and I don't know if you mentioned this already, but beyond the 8 goals on the season for Jake at the 30-game mark, 7 on the power play, 1 5-on-5 goal when you have logged top 5 minute or top line minutes all season long, and 1 5-on-5 goal, and it came in the home game against the Columbus Blue Jackets a month ago. So that makes no sense to me, but it also underscores, just the struggle is real for so many of the top end guys. And I understand Adam Foote's hands are tied. I get it. But this David Kampf experiment between Besser and Garland is just dragging Brock Besser and Connor Garland down into the offensive ditch. It makes no sense. Like, it's 10 games now without a point for David Kampf, who should never have been tasked with being a top 6 player, has never profiled in that kind of role in the National Hockey League. We've all seen enough. They got to a point with Lucas Reichel where they thought, okay, enough's enough. We're going to go in a different direction. I don't care if it's Atu Ratu or Max Sasson, or with every game that goes by, I keep coming back to Tyson Cole's idea of, and it doesn't have to be Brock Besser, but just find your best 6 NHL forwards and let them figure it out. And if you don't win a faceoff, hey, so be it. You're not scoring goals and winning hockey games now. So if you do it without a center, there's going to be challenges. But something tells me that 6 legitimate NHL forwards are more likely to figure it out than continuing to put the square peg in the round hole.
Look at Drew O'Connor. Drew O'Connor does not have a ton of experience down the middle, particularly the NHL level, but even in the AHL, honestly, you're right. For whatever deficiencies you might have defensively on coverage, you are bolstering your chances of scoring a goal.
We've been talking that Tyson Cole question to Brock Besser a few weeks ago. Tyson of Canucks Army. Hey, would you try center if they ask you to play center? I mean, for God's sakes, like anyone at this point over David Kampf and Lucas Reichel. Please and thank you. Lastly, from me, Jeff, report from Mike Russo in Minnesota that the price on Kiefer Sherwood has gone up from a prospect and a pick to a roster player and a first-round pick. Sherwood is without a goal in 10, without a point in 8. What are you seeing or not seeing from Kiefer Sherwood right now, and how urgent is that trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it comes back to who is he playing with, and he's moved up the lineup at times, but there's just such a lack of offensive talent down the middle for this hockey club that it makes it challenging for the wingers to be expected to put the puck in the net. He brings an honest effort, and I don't think that's changed an awful lot here. But guys, when you look at Kiefer Sherwood's resume this season, 9 goals in October, 3 in November, and now we're a week into December and none. So, yes, he still leads the Vancouver Canucks with 12 goals at the 30-game mark, but he was never going to be the guy that his start was incredible. It was fun to watch, and it was part of the reason that this team was able to tread water. They were getting production from unlikely sources, and Kiefer Sherwood was certainly at the top of the list there. My concern with Kiefer Sherwood isn't the way that he's playing. It's that the longer you hold on to him, if you are going to trade him, and I'm pretty certain that they are, it would be the best trade chip get hurt at some point. And that's a very real possibility. And so I do wonder if they would be prudent to move him sooner rather than later, if they know what the market is, rather than dithering for too long. I think you have to be decisive. And if you know the direction that you're going to take, then why wouldn't you pull the trigger? And look, it's fine for them to ask for a first-round pick and a player. Like, I can ask $5 million for my house. If somebody wants it for $5 million, hey, they can have it. I'm not going to find that purchaser, though, right? So the asking price is one thing. Ultimately, it's what teams are willing to pay is the true value of a player, and that's what negotiation is all about. And we'll see what kind of deal they can drive here for Kiefer Sherwood. The other part is the acquiring team's not looking at Kiefer Sherwood as its leading goal scorer. Kiefer Sherwood's the Vancouver Canucks leading goal scorer. They're looking for the guy that's going to be an absolute pain in the ass to play against night in, night out, bring the physicality, be there in the playoffs. And if he can bolster your third line, then absolutely that's a win for the acquiring team. I think that's what they're looking at. So a lot of us kind of fall into that trap of looking at the 12 goals. Fine. You can't take them away from them. They're on the board. But really, I think acquiring teams realize what it is that they're looking to bring in Kiefer Sherwood.
Well, in fairness, it's a lovely neighborhood in Lynn Valley. His neighbors organize a Halloween fireworks display each and every year.
Yeah.
And there's often the occasion to
What's the walking score?
watch the teddy bear picnic on Garbage Day.
I think we can get close to 5. We're going to work on that.
Yeah,
Around the corner from both elementary and high schools. We did a total overhaul of the backyard last year too. So there's nothing needed. $5 million, it's a deal.
It's plug and play. It's plug and play.
Line up. Line up starts around the corner. Yeah, exactly.
I think we'll lose an employee if he gets $5 million.
Yeah, exactly. Don't nobody buy Jeff's house. We need him covering the Canucks. Speaking of, you're in for Blake on Friday, so we'll see you then, my friend. Until then, RinkWide Vancouver after
that'll be an interesting one.
We're Not Them Cup Thursday against the Buffalo Sabres.